Well, it's good to be back. For my new subscribers who don't know me, my name is Shimigami X, aka Captain X. I'm leader of Squad X, and I'm here today to give you none other than your weekly prescribed review of Bleach. Today what I'm going to be reviewing for you is Bleach chapter 599, entitled Too Early to Win, Too Late to Know. But before we even get into things, some of you are going to say like, why am I bothering to do this review because it's out so late? I'm doing this review because I want to do this review, and it's been a long time since I've done a review, and I want to get back into the swing of things because I've been very busy with life, basically. So nonetheless, let's get into the review. Is the camera right? Yeah, the camera's cool. It's all good. It's got enough of my sexy face in the shot. I'm joking, man. I'm joking. Alright, nonetheless, let's get into this chapter. This week's chapter was a very, very good chapter of Bleach for several reasons. Not only did we get introduced to new characters, we got a little bit of story progression, we had character deaths as well, which we also had action, and we had a little bit of dialogue, which is the recipe for a great chapter. I'm not gonna, from the get-go, I'm gonna tell you now, I'm not gonna give this chapter a rating like, 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or things of that nature, because I don't believe in number ratings for chapter reviews. Simply because there's no criteria, like there's no mark scheme such criteria that I can give, like what justifies me giving something an 8 to an 8.5, like what does? I can say that this week's chapter was a 10, but then one next week could be even better. Well, I'm gonna say that's 11 out of 10, that just doesn't make sense. Nonetheless, you guys understand that. Okay, so now let's talk about the things that we already knew prior to this chapter. We knew that asking Necklavar, he said that, will he have a choice? We wondered, what is that choice going to be about? And that is basically brought to light in this chapter, which is why I tell people that when it comes to Kubo, when he writes Bleach, when he says something weird and that doesn't quite add up and make sense, reserve your judgment, hold off for a minute, like give it a few chapters, wait and see down the line until the arc's finished. The reason I say that is because you don't know when he's going to make something relevant, because he does a lot of foreshadowing. He will say things, he will put a line here or there in, like maybe, like in this chapter now, for it only to be relevant in 40 chapters later. He does things like that, and that's what makes him a good writer. So what we can see what Asking Necklavar was talking about was that will he have a choice about going up to the Royal Palace and having to fight, because you know that Asking Necklavar is the kind of character that he doesn't like to fight. He will avoid fighting if at all possible. Like for example, when he was going to fight against Mayuri, he said that nope, he's not going to fight him because it would take him too long, and he'd have to come up with too many different methods to be able to kill him, and it's just not worth his time. When Kenpachi and Gremi were fighting, the guy was chilling on the rooftop with binoculars and a picnic basket. Like, this guy's taking a piss. Like, it's that deep. But anyways, that's enough of Asking Necklavar. We see that Asking Necklavar's letter is Star Knight D. We knew that from ages ago, but we now know what it stands for. It stands for the death dealing. And what exactly that means, I can't really dive into speculation of what I think that could be, because quite bluntly, I just don't know. I just really don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I couldn't even make any speculation because it'd just be completely wild and crazy and out there, and the chances of it being right are minimal, and I ended up making a fool of myself, and I ain't about that life. Anyways, let's move on to the other Star Knights that are introduced in order. So let's go with Star Knight C. Star Knight M, sorry. Star Knight M, I like his character design from the get-go. I've always believed that, Bleach had room for the kind of gladiator style warriors, and I've always liked that. I've actually always liked things like 300, the actual film Gladiator itself. I've always loved like gladiators. It's just so cool, and to see one in Bleach, it's so good. A lot of people are giving him reference to 4, and I can see why they did that, but the guy doesn't have a hammer, so next. And he's not using thunder powers or anything like that nature. All we see is that basically he cuts down one of Senjumaru's arms, which we're going to talk about Senjumaru a little bit later. Next, we go on to Star Knight C. I think it's called the Compulsory, or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember exactly. But his powers, interesting, because when Senjumaru Shutara brought down her, like basically her giant soldier, where like basically her little small soldier fused together into this one giant being, it got crippled, dismantled, and broken straight away. Because that was meant to take on the gladiator style guy, but he got taken out quickly, sharply, no hesitation. So, and the way he distorted the armor and distorted his body kind of interested me. So out of the Star Knights, his powers seem to be the more interesting one. Now, we're going to move on to the final Star Knight that we're introduced to this chapter, which is Star Knight X. Now, my thoughts about Star Knight X. This guy seems very familiar. Like Star Knight X. X reminds me of this guy. I'm sure he's a captain or something. Does YouTube videos from time to time. Mess around with swords a lot. Pretty cool guy. Yeah, goes by the name of X. Oddly enough, he's a black guy too. Oddly enough, he's a badass as well, but I can't remember his name. Can you guys remember? Just rings a bell. If you guys know who it is, you know, like, give me a shout. Anyways, that's for Star Knight X now. I'm going to give you a unique perspective of Star Knight X and his powers. Okay. For those of you who don't know, yeah, like in the real world, yeah, that's outside of me being like, you know, Captain X, your leader and whatnot, my degree, I study computer games animation, which means I use 3D packages and I'm always working in 3D space, like 3D software. And so obviously naturally I'm using X, Y, and Z coordinates. To be more specific, I use Cartesian coordinates, where X and Y are on like basically a flat plane like that, so like X then Y, and then Z is the one that points upwards. So that's just how it is for my degree, and when you're working in 3D space, just how it works. Like for like games development, animation, 3D animation and things like that. That's how it works. So with that being said, my understanding of it is this. When it says the X-axis, we see that basically blows a hole in Senjumaru's head, which is something that kind of upset me a little bit in the chapter, because Senjumaru is like, she's my favourite of the Royal Guard, like, she's bae, like, she's that real. Listen, so we see that he basically takes a hole out of her head, but he noticed that he was in direct line of sight with her. So what I believe his powers are is that if somebody is literally on the X-axis with him, like basically in direct line with him, not only his powers are this, not only will he not miss with that gun, so if you're in line with him, he won't miss. If you're in his X-axis. Also, if he hits you while he's in the X-axis, it's instant death. That's what I believe that his powers are. So basically it's like a sniper shot. X marks the spot. Take it how you will. That's just my interpretation of it. Obviously his powers could be somewhat more elaborate than that, but at this point in time I have to go by what the chapter has given me in terms of material, and by the material that it's given me, those are my thoughts and speculations. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Okay, now let's go backwards in the chapter. There's a few things that I liked about this chapter besides the introduction of the new Star Knights and finding out what Askin's letter stands for. It's the way that Star Knight W was dealt with. We all know that back in the past that Kubo would do things like, you know, you have a character with a weird and unique power, and it takes a very specific opponent to be able to take him out. Like, and it takes several chapters, maybe 3 or 4 chapters, that kind of dives away from the main point just to finish and conclude this battle, while the main villain or slash antagonist just does nothing in the background, sits there and watches his minion become fodderized, which I don't like. But Kubo did go that route, but he done it in a different way this time, which I thought was a very warm welcome. Like, he had Senjumaru deal with Star Knight W quickly and effectively and efficiently, and it was done masterpiece. Yeah, there's a little bit of an art error where, like, you know, the emblem that she left on him in the previous chapter 598 wasn't there when you're seeing him being killed in this chapter. We see him dying in that sense. Anyways, that's that. So now, the shock value of the chapter is obviously seeing a hole blown in Senjumaru's head, like, you know, the elite soul reapers being taken out, the elite of the elite being taken out like that. I'm just like, wow. And to be honest, that's my favorite one. But that's not gonna make I'm not gonna say it's a bad chapter because of that, because like my favorite Royal Guard got taken out. No. In fact, that adds to the chapter. It gives shock value and also reinstates that, you know what, these Quincy are a serious threat. Because yeah, because back down in the Soul Society, yeah, the Serete, or slash Vandenreich, or Vandenray, whatever you want to call it, basically we see that Byakuya and basically the other captains, they basically got the situation under control. There's no Star Knights that are there really that can do anything to them, because like none of them really are a match for Byakuya and, you know, like Mayuri with their combined, like, you know, efforts. Basically the battle down there, in my opinion, is already all but over. But now the battle that's going on up here, I like the fact that there are elite among the elite when it comes to the Quincy's. Like, you know, like Juha has his specific elite soldiers and Askin's a part of them. The reason I like that is because me, Charles' Enemy World, and the Elite Ace were talking about this in the Captain's Table, which we did well over 6 months ago now, and like, we really need to do another one. But yeah, we're talking about that there and saying that, you know, there must be the way that these you know, there's only 26 Star Knights, and the way that they're getting, like, you know, taken out, like Kenpachi took out 3 of them, now 4. The way things are going is that there needs to be some kind of elite of elite, and that clearly seems to be the case in this chapter. So overall, this chapter was a very, very solid chapter, and I can't complain about it. I actually can't pick out any negative points. When I scroll through the chapter and I'm reading it here through the manga stream version, I can't think of anything that, you know, like, was done wrong. Yeah, there could be things that are done better, because no manga series is perfect, but in terms of this chapter, very well executed, Kubo, and I have to give you my respects. Alright guys, hope you guys have enjoyed this chapter review. There's not really much more I can say other than the fact that, you know, this was a very good chapter. I enjoyed it a lot, and I can't wait for next week's chapter. I hope you guys are thrilled that I'm back. Yeah, I'm gonna have my reviews out consistently and, you know, weekly as normal, because this is how I do. Because I had a lot of things going on in my life. But if you guys followed my Facebook fan page and stuff, you guys would know what's been going on with me, my channel, and all things of that nature. Anyways guys, so before my camera battery dies, I'm gonna sign out. Hope you guys have enjoyed this chapter review. I hope it was very eye-opening for you. I hope it was refreshing to hear, like, you know, my thoughts about the chapter again. I'm gonna be back as normal. Anyways guys, I'm rambling on. It's your boy Shin Megami X, aka your Captain X. I'm signing out. As always my people, take care and peace, and remember, keep it 99 plus 1. You do the math.